And we're live in 3, 2. Oh, I'm not supposed to. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is I, your host at Lateral FF. Lateral, not Adam Schefter. Still not Adam Schefter. Don't be looking at my tweets for the rumors. You're not going to find anything there. Only ideas for potentially legally damaging game shows. Hot seat, by the way, if anyone interested, I am still pitching that to various networks. I'm open to offers. All right. All joking aside, I just want to address two things right off the bat. Thing number one, the domestic terrorism that occurred in Atlanta. That shit's got to stop. It's not okay. It's never been okay. I don't know what else there really is to say at this point other than maybe don't kill people, period. And certainly not because of any demographic factors that they may have. And I think, honestly, there's been a lot of intelligence stuff already out there. I've tried to retweet some of it as I come along it. So you can go through and look for that. But it's awful. And I don't know what else there is to say on that front. And another awful thing, obviously, most of the fantasy football community knows about what's going on with Deshaun Watson at this point. I think at this point, it's fair to say that the allegations are credible enough to merit investigation. That's about all I'll have to say on that front. I'm going to let the process do what it does. When it comes to my writing, I'm just going to sort of ignore that he exists until this is resolved one way or the other. And again, I hope that the women's allegations are properly investigated and whatever truth there is comes to light and that everything is handled fairly. And I think that's about as best as it can be handled. So we were going to talk about Deshaun Watson today. That's obviously not happening now. And again, just trying to do the best we can here. But on to funner things. Free agency going on this week. It's been insane. I don't really know another way to describe it. I, of course, took a major L right out the gate. The entire offseason been going, there is no way Green Bay is re-signing Aaron Jones. They drafted a quarterback in the second round. They drafted, a running back in the second round. They drafted a quarterback in the first round, which is its own issue. We're not going to go there. I think enough people have already gone there. But they draft A.J. Dillon in the second round. They give him a run out towards the end, at the end of the season, and the regular season rather. And things are looking good. People are excited. Why would you pay Aaron Jones, who I think is going to be 30 by the end of the deal, if he gets to the end of the deal, which, he may not, as we've seen this year. Plenty of people can get cut for cap reasons, including any Bears defender who's good, because that happened for some reason. In totally unrelated news, I think I'm going to be cutting the Bears myself at this point. Yeah, so they bring back Aaron Jones, and I think I was as confused as a lot of people. If you got to take the victory lap on that one, congratulations, you got me. Is what it is. I think A.J. Dillon will still be relevant, though. I don't think he will obviously be as relevant as a lot of people had hoped, but I think he could have similar fantasy relevance potentially to Jamal Williams, but for different reasons. I see his range being anywhere from the Latavius Murray in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara to the Mark Ingram in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara, and likely somewhere in between. But I think he's more likely to take that sort of a role and letting Aaron Jones take an Alvin Kamara-like role given his skill set comparatively. But some other stuff happened as well, like Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake setting fantasy Twitter on fire. If you had any take on that whatsoever, you're an asshole, or you're a genius, or this or that. As talented or untalented as those players may be, the fact that that is what is tearing our world apart right now is insane. Of all, it's I don't think I've seen someone that people are more divided on than Chase Edmonds, which is shocking. I feel like it's fairly reasonable what to expect from him. There's a range of outcomes that could occur, but I don't if anyone thinks he's going to be an RB1, that's absurd. I think if anyone thinks that he's going to like completely ride the bench, I think that's also unlikely. Oh man, if only I had some people here to discuss some free agency stuff with, though. Maybe they've written some articles recently, kind of knowledgeable on the topic. Should have told the Lateral bot to get me some guests. I kind of forgot to do that. I like had some in mind, but they had to bail, I think. Oh, wait, no, they're here. They're here. Ah, thank you guys for showing up.
I have no idea how I ended up here, but hey now.
It's the magic of the interwebs, which we are now on the YouTubes as well. Hello, YouTubes. But yeah, let's get right into it. We have our guests, the lovely Nate and Jen, and I'm gonna butcher this right out the gate. I think poll vote.
No, you didn't butcher it. It's poll vote.
Oh, okay. Hey, whatever it really is, please feel free to say so. But that was what I was going with.
No, that's seriously, that's right. Politics and vote.
Yeah.
Jen coined the politics and vote, but awesome. I'm sorry. I'm just so impressed.
Well, I appreciate it. Just like I appreciate you guys coming on. Of course, Nate is the senior digital media editor at In Between Media at IBT_media on Twitter. If you guys are trying to find out where they are, in his Twitter is at NateJackFF. And he also podcasts, does some writing for IBT Media. I listened to the pod recently. Some really good stuff. I think he had Detroit Beastie on there. It was a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, it was a great show. We really enjoyed having him on. We enjoy everybody we have on. We've had some really good guests, so it's a great show.
No, you guys, Seth and Scott we've had on before, and Seth we'd love to have on. You guys seem to run a really tight ship over there. And part of that is also Jen, who is a columnist and the managing editor and business manager for IBT. Hopefully didn't butcher any of that. No, hitting the name right, hitting the titles right. Let's just keep on rolling. So married couple, writing about fantasy football, dealing with fantasy content, some lifestyle content. Let's start real big picture. How'd you guys get into fantasy football? Jen, if you want to start, we can go with you and then work our way around the horn.
Yeah.
To Nate. That's how circles work. I'm still figuring that one out.
Yeah. So I started fantasy like 10 years ago, and it was a work league that Nate had when he was working for T-Mobile. And they just needed somebody to round out. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. I mean, I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know who anybody is. I don't know what I'm doing, but yeah, let's give it a go. And Nate ended up basically drafting my entire team for me, minus a couple of guys. Like, there was liquor involved, and I may or may not have passed out in the back of our Suburban. I mean, you just don't know.
Glad I did not get a word in edgewise there. I do have to ask, though, who was the first player that Nate drafted for you in that first fantasy football team? Do either of you remember?
It was Ocho Cinco, but I drafted Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco in the first round.
Yeah. Yep. And that was, man. I mean, that was, what are we saying? What year is it now? 2011? No.
So that was 2000. That was in 2007.
Yeah.
Because that's when I worked. Yeah, that was in 2007. So it was.
It's been a while. Definitely a time where Ocho Cinco was more relevant. Was he actually Ocho Cinco at that point, or was he still Chad Johnson?
No, he was Chad.
He was Chad Johnson. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, Nate, what about you? Where's your journey start?
So my journey starts in 1994. My dad had a work league. He worked for EchoStar, which is now Dish Network.
Okay.
And so they had this work league, and he would come home from work with like a stack of lineups because everything was handwritten back then. And we would sit at the kitchen table watching Monday Night Football with Al Michaels, Dan Deerdorf, and Frank Gifford and score everybody's lineups out of the paper box scores.
At any point, was it touchdown only? Are we going that far back?
No, it was like, I mean, obviously it wasn't PPR, but like, I want to say you got like a point for every like 10 rushing yards, every 10 receiving yards. It was like somewhat like similar to a standard scoring league now. But yeah, my first draft pick was Randall Cunningham.
Okay, that's definitely an interesting one. For the record, I think mine was Aaron Rodgers in 2010. I think was my first draft pick.
Wow.
The team did okay. I made it to the playoffs, but not much further than that. But then, okay, so we know how you get into fantasy football. It's been a fairly long journey for you two. It seems, not new to the scene, but a little newer to the scene for fantasy writing. So how did you guys get into fantasy writing? Were you doing any writing of any kind before you started writing about fantasy, or is IBT really your first venture into this?
So I guess I'll start with this one.
Yeah,
no, I hadn't really written anything since probably my senior year of high school when I did an English term paper on prohibition.
Okay.
So
were you pro or con? Sort of hoping you're con.
I just talked about it. That's
gotcha.
I'm very clearly con prohibition here.
Yeah. Let's play the game. Is this gin? The answer may surprise
you. So, we've been on Twitter since 2009, and my feed had gotten to a point on our old account where it was just like all politics, and it was making me crazy. So I completely nuked it and started a whole new account in October 2019, and just wanted to focus on football and fantasy football and like sports news. And in June of 2020, I saw Seth throw a tweet out. It's like, oh, hey, I'm looking for writers for this company that I'm starting In Between Media. I'd be interested to talk to anybody who might be interested in writing for us. And I looked at it and I thought, you know what? Jen and I have been talking about doing this for the better part of a decade, if not longer. Why wouldn't I? Might as well. So I shot him a DM and we ended up talking a couple of days later. And like 2 weeks later, my first column came out. And it's the first thing I'd ever written that's ever been published. I've never been published before. But I was just so excited about it. And we love football. At Jen's behest, we turned our basement into a room to watch football on Sundays. We have 4 TVs. When we had Sunday Ticket, we were down here every Sunday just watching football, and both of us like with all of our devices out and monitoring our DraftKings and our home league. And occasionally we did like those random Yahoo leagues where it's like user 74963, but just for fun. And I mean, we talked about it so much, and it was so fun. And Seth is so awesome, and had such an awesome vision. I think it was just kind of out of nowhere. It's one of those things where like by chance I happened to see his tweet, and by chance he happened to actually respond to me. I wasn't following him at the time. I had never heard of In Between Media. Somebody else retweeted it. I think I had like 5 followers when I joined In Between, maybe like at the most. Like I wasn't someone who ever posted anywhere or did anything with it. And then, that turned into a lot of long conversations with Seth and taking over social media. And then all of a sudden it was all 3 of us talking all the time. So like Jen was getting looped into stuff and talking about stuff. And Jen, honey, take it from here.
Yeah. I mean, I was just kind of, Seth and Nate were on speaker all the time. And so I heard what was going on and knew what was happening. Obviously I knew Nate had nuked the other account and that he had kind of started like getting into it, and he was throwing out all these names. And I'm like, none of this makes sense to me. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know why that's funny. I don't know anything. And then it was
constantly sitting on the couch, phone in hand, just going away.
Constant. And that has not gotten better.
It's gotten much worse.
Worse.
I get that. I feel that.
Yeah, worse for sure. And then one day Seth was just like, hey, Jen, you in? I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, I don't even have Twitter, but sure, let's do that. And so I agreed to come on and start writing. And what really appealed to me was the lifestyle portion of it, obviously football. But to be able to tell my story, because we just have such a crazy life. Like, we don't ask for this stuff to happen to us, but crazy things just happen. And so I think I joined Twitter in late August, something like that, and started writing and put out my first column. I think it was September. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, so that's how I started writing. I mean, I was going to be an English major, so writing is not foreign to me
Okay.
by any means, but yeah, I mean, that's basically how it started, and here we are.
And
Gotcha.
she's by far the smarter of the two of us, just to be clear.
Okay.
Well, is that why she was the one doing property management, whereas you were just cooking?
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I did property management for 14 years. I was a senior business manager for one of the largest property management companies in the United States. And Nate held down the fort at home. I mean, it definitely was a flip-flop of gender roles, as far as like,
Yep.
he did the cooking, he did the cleaning, he did the laundry, he ran the errands, he did the grocery shopping, and I wore my 5-inch heels and my suit every day, walked out the door, and then came home to a spotless house, like dinner waiting. It was like the 1960s, but in reverse. But yeah, I mean,
No, I totally respect that. My parents actually same way. I was proud product of a stay-at-home dad who literally had a job up until the moment a child was born, and then it was like, okay, who's got the better job? Mom?
yep.
Okay, you're working. I'm staying home. That's all there is to it. And to be fair, Nate, when I say just cooking, chef is genuinely a dream job, and one that I respect enough that I know it's insanely hard and I'd be crazy to want it, but it didn't stop me from putting the Anthony Bourdain quote on the inside of the arm there.
I love Anthony Bourdain.
Yeah.
Definitely
Love
one of
Anthony
my
Bourdain.
heroes, part of why I wanted to get into content creation for sure. One of my pet projects that I'd love to do actually is I want to drink and work my way through every country in the world as like kind of a book idea, where it's like I go to a country, I spend the night hanging out with people, getting to know kind of the culture, and then the next day I have to work to pay off my bar tab.
That's
So,
awesome.
Sounds great.
That's like the idea in my head. If anyone here's in the publishing game, feel free to, send some offers my way. I just need the money. That's really all that's stopping me. But yeah, okay. So that would explain, I guess, then why Jen is doing the business management over
Yes.
at IBT as well. So how did you then, Nate, get into the digital media editing game?
So I'm just really good at Twittering, I guess. The thing is that I'm willing to put in the time to be on social media during the day. I've learned a lot about how to engage with people, how to spread the word about what we're doing. And it just kind of seemed like a natural progression. And then as we grew, I was already the one running a lot of the Twitter stuff with Seth. So it made sense. I kind of pushed us into Facebook, and now Scott and I are running it together. He's our digital media editor, and it's fun. And I like social media and I like engaging with people. I was off Facebook before this. Like I didn't
I
use
still
it,
don't
didn't
have
do
one.
it.
I
Oh, wow.
don't have one at all. I haven't had one for years. I had one when I went traveling across the country. I got back and I was like, I don't need this. And I only had Instagram and Snapchat to talk to a few people for the longest time. And then my buddy Herms, who you all know, he decided that he wanted to launch the Lateral. And so I was just like, okay, cool. And he's like, you're going to have to get a Twitter. I'm like, okay, fuck you. But here we are. And I guess the fucks are on me because I've got a Twitter that I'm on way more than I should be. But that's its own separate conversation for another day. So you guys have already touched on this a little. Why the decision to combine lifestyle and fantasy football content? I think it's not one that would like readily come to mind for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Jen, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I think for us, we wanted to be a little bit more well-rounded and show people that we're not just football and sports, and to make us more relatable, really. Like, you get to know us. If you've ever read my columns, most people know our son's name is Jackson. Like, we're just putting it all out there to be relatable. I mean, not to bring this down, but like my pregnancy loss column, it just shows that somebody else has been through this and survived it. And I did a podcast with it too. I had a podcast episode that we released with the Real Moms podcast, and just being a real person and getting to know us as people. And so that really appealed to me, because anybody can research and write about fantasy football or sports or whatever it is, but if you can combine that with who you are as a person, then it just makes it a little bit more fun, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and that was a lot of, obviously this was Seth's vision.
Sure.
We came on board a little bit behind, but I think that's part of why we were so involved and we were so drawn to it, because it is a little bit different. Like Jen said, we've lived and we have seen some things, like weird situations or things that are relatable to other people that maybe somebody else is sitting around thinking, oh man, I feel so alone about XYZ. And if we can relate to them in some way, shape, or form about these things, make a little bit of difference in their life, like ultimately that is what we're going for. And the football side is fun. The sports side is fun. And we want to have fun. And we love talking football. We know football in and out. It's our favorite sport. We eat, sleep, and breathe football. But there's more to us than that. And there are other things going on in our life. And being able to combine those things into one column or one stream, and you get a little bit of this and you get a little bit of that. I just really like that we can combine those things into one product not product, but one column, one piece of information for people where you get both.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I totally get that. I think it turns out that, we try and present a like perfect face to the world a lot of the time. And like, we think we're the weird one for having gone through something. And then once you actually talk to people, it turns out, oh wait, like everyone's gone through something.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
You talk about your pregnancy loss. Like, I can sympathize with that, because when I was just talking about like how I was the product of a stay-at-home dad because the kid was born, and my dad left his job, the kid wasn't me. It was actually my sister, who 6 months later was no longer with us. So I can sympathize with that situation a lot, just both from like the pain that my parents clearly felt, and like then having to reconcile with that later as an adult, knowing that like you are partially the product of that loss, whether it be a negative or a positive. Like at first it starts out as negative, and then later as you go along, you realize to see the good in it, hopefully.
Yeah.
Which I eventually did, but it was definitely a struggle to get there. So,
Sure.
but then, yeah, I think it creates a really unique value proposition. Like, I've got a business background personally. I originally went to school for history, found out maybe that's not going to pay so well, but working would. So I stopped going to school. I started working, and I kept working. And then I finally decided to go back to school. I ended up going for business. And like, one of the things you learn is like, what's going to be your unique selling point? What's going to be your unique value proposition? Like at the Lateral, we try and like shine a light on people who aren't like Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook. We want to talk about the Gabe Davises, but like for a redraft perspective, like really getting into some things that like you might be missing. Because there's a lot of other people who can talk about the other really important guys. And it's like, are we going to cover a base that they haven't already? So like for you guys, it's like, we'll cover some fantasy football because that's a big passion for us. And then we'll also cover some lifestyle stuff because that's a thing that's going to be really unique to us. And we'll find a way to tie it all in. So again, I read both of your columns, the most recent ones, and I thought it was really interesting. So actually, Jen, I have to ask, any updates on the mystery packages?
So yes and no. So first of all, we spent hours on the phone with the bank and in a chat with Amazon trying to figure this out, because all of these charges just kept hitting and hitting and hitting. And we were like, well, this can't continue. And getting these random packages that are insignificant to us. We don't even know what these parts are that are coming from China. Like, we need to figure this out. So we did eventually figure it out. We don't know why we received the packages from China still. We have no idea what those were about, but we did figure out what the international transaction fees were. We joined we joined a workout program, and apparently they're based in Canada.
That'll do it. All right. So the packages are unrelated to the transaction fees.
Yep. Exactly right.
Interesting. Yep. That makes the packages all that more interesting then.
Exactly. But Amazon still doesn't know why we're getting them, where they're really coming from. Not sure why Amazon can't figure that out. But I mean, if a third one comes, then maybe we'll dig into it a little bit deeper. But it was enough for us to figure out why we were getting charged international transaction fees between the workout program, and Nate had ordered a couple of things from Viridian, who's also based in Canada, and they do a lot of the swag for the fantasy football community. So we figured out where that was coming from, but we still don't know why we're getting these random
like weird things. Like it was like so in a computer where you've got like the circuits that plug into the motherboard, and it's like the black, like almost like fuse. We got one of those, and it was like this long from end to end. It's like, I don't know what to do with this.
Yeah, you guys are much more laissez-faire about that than I would be. Like, I think Herms was there when this happened. One time I got a notification that someone had logged into my PayPal potentially, and I was just like, okay, that's a problem. And I think within 30 minutes, I had changed the passwords to my PayPal, my eBay, and like all of my bank accounts, like my Google, like everything. Within like 30 minutes, I'm just like, nobody can touch anything ever again. Like if I had been receiving random packages, I'd have moved. I'd have just been like, okay, we can't live here anymore. That's fine. I am not comfortable with that. I'm like, I'm out. Done. But
excuse me. How do I apply for witness protection, please?
It's like, it's going to be really expensive for us to move. No. We're moving. We can figure out the other stuff later, but no. So I appreciate the more relaxed approach to it. But let's see if we're relaxed. Jen, where do you think Carson Wentz will finish in redraft for 2021? Because he was a guy that you touched on in your article from the football side of things.
Yeah, like if you've talked to me about football in the last 5 years, like I am not high on Carson Wentz, and I know plenty of people are, and they're super stoked for the trade, and we're going to see what happens, but like definitely not top 15 for sure. Sure. Like, yeah, he's back with Frank Reich. Great. Wonderful. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to finish top 15. There are 15 other quarterbacks who are far better than him. But I will put him in the top 20. Like he's not completely out for me, but I guess we'll just see.
Okay. Nate, as long as we got you here, what are your thoughts on Pennsylvania? Well, now Wency-Annapolis. We're going to have to work on that.
I'm kind of right where Jen is. I need to see it because he had the opportunity in Philly to be decent and stayed healthy for an entire season. He wasn't great. He had his one good year with Reich. That excites me. I'm excited about him being back with Frank Reich, and he's got weapons. Jonathan Taylor, surprisingly, I don't know why they re-signed Marlon Mack, but they did, which is curious.
Look at that deal. It's not that expensive. I wouldn't worry about it that much. I think it's a familiarity with the offense situation.
That does make sense to me. Yes. That makes sense, especially with the new quarterback.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He's got weapons. I just don't know that he's going to do any better with them than he did in Philly with none. I mean, somewhere between 15 and 20 probably in PPR format. Like I'm okay with that, but any higher than 15 and I'm not buying what you're trying to sell me.
Okay. You guys, I mean, that all makes sense. I think I'm personally like just a little higher, but not a ton. I think I'd probably have him somewhere around the 15 range, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. I'd have to fully map everything out. I think the venue change will help, but there's a real chance that what we saw last year was the beginning of the end, and it might be a very brief chapter.
Yeah. I mean, he does have a better offensive line.
He has a better team. He has a better team. He has a better coach.
So,
he has a better line. He has a bet. Literally everything that could be better is better, other than the owner of the team. Okay?
Right.
That's true.
Ursays, we're from Balmer. We don't forget. You can stay away. Real ones know what that's a reference to. Trust me. Okay. Ed, how about you talked about unsolved mysteries? So I've got one more unsolved mystery for you. I actually had two here. Nate, this is why you were talking about Mitch Trubisky earlier, because I did have Mitch Trubisky here as one of the unsolved mysteries.
Yes.
It's now solved. Josh Allen stonks going down. Mitch is there. Oh, no.
Don't even start.
There is, I don't think anyone was being serious when they made tweets like that, insinuating that people were being serious. Like, Josh Allen is not touchable right now. Just period, end. And if he was touchable, he's not losing his job to No
way.
No. But
honestly, I'm just glad that he didn't end up in Denver. Because I had heard chatter about Trubisky coming to Denver. Oh, I'd rather.
You think Trubisky's that bad compared to Drew Lock? I feel like Trubisky would at least be able to, for a game at a time, maybe unlock some of those wide receivers. Now, the other games he'll suck, but like you'll get flashes. The team won't win, but like it'll look good from a fantasy perspective.
That's fair, but also we live in Denver, so
sure. Who are you guys? Actually, as long as we're on the subject, real quick, short answer. Nate, then Jen. Who do you hope will be the Broncos QB?
I really
no explanation, just a name.
I wanted Fitzmagic.
Well, who are you going to take now? Like, you can't have Fitzmagic. He's
who I would take?
He's down the street.
I know. Lucky. I would take Gardner Minshew.
Interesting. Okay, Jen, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, before the whole Deshaun Watson thing, I was kind of hopeful, maybe he'd land in Denver, but now without that, like, I mean, I could still hope for Deshaun Watson. I mean, we'll see how things.
No hoping for Marcus Mariota in the Mile High. No. Mile High Mariota, Mile High Marcus. Nope, not printing out that T-shirt, not making that hashtag for the marketing team.
Not yet.
All right.
I'd take Derek Carr.
Oh, I love Derek
Carr. But you can't have Derek Carr apparently.
I can dream.
What you could potentially have, though, would be weird for the Broncos, is Antonio Brown. Where do you think he's going to go, Jen?
I think he's going to stay in Tampa Bay. Like, he's kind of straightened out a little bit after all the craziness when
it's that TB12 living.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So I think he stays there. I think that Brady keeps him on the straight and narrow and keeps him from acting out. So, I mean, Brady likes him. He seems to like it there. So I'm going to leave him there in Tampa Bay.
Okay. Nate, what about you? Where do you got him going real quick?
I'm the same. It doesn't make sense for him to leave. I can't see another franchise taking a chance on a guy who's so volatile and proven he's so volatile. But that TB12 living, man, it's keeping him in line. Probably the best place for him, and Brady gets who he wants. So there you go. Yeah,
I mean, Antonio Brown has definitely brought people a fair amount of stress over the past couple of years. Has Antonio Brown been more or less stressful than working as a married couple?
I mean, so Nate and I have been working together basically almost 3 years. So I quit my property management job in August of 2018.
Okay.
So that meant we were together all the time with Jackson, of course.
That's
And
pre-pandemic all together all the time.
Yes.
yeah, pre-pandemic. So we practiced our pandemic routine for like a year and a half before the pandemic hit. But I mean, we love hanging out. We share the same opinions and views on pretty much everything. So, like, the only thing that's stressful is when we're playing each other in
Okay.
one of
Okay.
our leagues. Like, that's way more stressful than being home 24/7
Okay.
together.
So we had a week this past season.
Uh-huh.
We were in 7 leagues together. We co-managed one team together. We had a week where we played each other in 3 leagues the same week. It's like, well, I guess I'm only paying attention to 4 of my other leagues this week. Pray
So-
I lose.
How do you guys handle it when you play each other in a given week? I mean, we've seen some examples in the TV show The League of potential scenarios, though obviously, little license, little hyperbole in there. I mean, do you guys like firewall it, lock it down, no sharing of intel, nothing? Or do you just go like, you know what? We'll be respectful. We can still talk about some stuff, but obviously I'm not going to like let you know what my waiver move is going to be or anything like that.
No, it's like shut it down. We don't
Okay.
talk about it. We don't, because I'm a sore loser and I'm very, very, very competitive. So we just like don't look at anything. Like, don't pay attention to anything. We don't talk about it afterwards, who won or lost. Like, it's just
There's no gloating.
No.
There's no gloating.
No.
I would punch him in the face if he won and gloated. I would. I'd be like,
Oh, she would.
shut your damn mouth.
So I
okay?
shouldn't then ask the question that all of our fans want to hear: who had the head-to-head win this year? Who had the better record?
Jen did better all around than I did.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. All right. Congrats to Jen. Awesome job. Well, all right. We'll let Jen soak in that glory for a minute while I ask Nate about his column. So, Nate, I did read your latest column about traveling, seeing the world, some fantasy football as well. So, how we talked about how long you've been playing or been involved in fantasy in general, but you're starting to focus a bit more on Dynasty. How long have you been doing Dynasty leagues? Are you still focusing on redraft at all? Like, what's the situation there?
So, this past season was the first time I'd ever even heard of Dynasty.
Okay.
I had no idea it existed. I always wanted it to exist because like I was a big Dynasty guy in like Madden and NCAA on EA Sports back when that was a thing. And I've always wanted to be a GM of a sports team. Like that's like my ultimate dream. If I could have anything I wanted, like a genie popped out of a lamp that I rubbed and it's like 3 wishes, like, well, I want to own a sports team. That would be my first one. So Dynasty is so much fun.
So you want to pull the Homer Simpson, right?
Yes.
At the end of the day, Hank Scorpio gives you the Broncos.
That's right. That would be amazing. I do such a better job of running that organization. But anyway, we do. So I'll probably be in our home league for redraft that we started in. What did we decide? 2009? Our home league?
You said 2007.
Okay.
2007 was the Ocho Cinco draft.
That was. So then we started it in 2008. We started our home league in 2008. So we'll stick with that league because, I mean, it's family and friends, but like most of what we're leaning towards has been Dynasty. I think I'm in 12 Dynasty leagues now. So going through some.
If you're watching, do not invite Nate to participate in any more. Like, he's done. I'm going to have to hear about it like endlessly through the entire week and all day on Sunday, and it's not happening. So no more. We appreciate you and thank you for thinking of him, but no thank you.
Nate, meanwhile, is like Dave Chappelle going like, you got any of that Campus to Canton? Yes, I need some of that Campus to Canton.
Well, so it's funny. Somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they DM'd me like, hey, do you want to do a startup? And I was like, no. And then I used that GIF. I was like, okay.
Oh, man. Okay, so we're not focusing on the redraft. We're getting more into Dynasty.
And I'll still focus on a little bit of redraft, but most of where I'm headed is Dynasty at this point.
Who handles redraft on IBT, actually, as long as we're on the subject? Who do you think is going to be tackling that particular beast?
So Seth's column is redraft.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. Essentially, it's like a start sit type column where he focuses on redraft. We have a couple other people too. Chris Hayes is more of a dynasty. Seth. Jen covers redraft
Okay.
as well.
Okay. And then you talked about some stats, some film watching. What do you think is like the most overlooked or most important thing that's like going to give an analyst an edge in analyzing a player, at least in your experience so far?
So most important to me is looking at target share and snap share, looking at those two and kind
do you
of
have a preference.
Well, I like them together. So I like to look at,
Okay.
I like to look at both and kind of look at, so if you've got a guy who's getting like an 85 to 90% snap share, but getting 4 targets a game, probably not somebody I want to touch.
Sure.
And if it's a real trend, you're not going to get any value out of them. So, but if you have a guy who let's say 50% snap share, but dude's getting 8 to 10 targets a game. So he's a minimal usage, but heavy target type person. I want someone like that on my roster because there are going to be those weeks where the matchup is going to dictate that they're going to get closer to like a 75 to 80% snap share and their targets could go through the roof. You could have a 12, 13, 14 target game, hopefully translates to 8 to 10 catches. And if you're in PPR, those 8 to 10 catches are 8 to 10 points.
Sure, almost like a James White and Belichick's offense situation where it's like,
exactly.
If James White is on the field, he's getting the ball. He's not on the field all the time, but if he's on the field, he's getting the ball. Unfortunately, defenses also learned that, and Belichick never quite got to that part. But for fantasy,
yeah, no, for sure. And I just think you can find really good value, and you'll know the weeks when you need to play those guys. If that that's how you're going to find your sleepers, like waiver wire guys. You're like, oh, it's a matchup. Like Lynn Bowden was a guy this year where there were a couple matchups and situations where you knew he was going to be on the field more, and he was getting 3 to 4 targets at points where he was only having like a 30 or 40% snap share. But then all of a sudden he has to be on the field more. He's getting 10 targets.
Okay, so Lynn Bowden, that's a really good one. Any other players that kind of jumped like that this past year?
Colin Johnson. When he got his shot, I knew. So he kind of reminds me like size-wise and skill-wise of Megatron, not as polished, but he's got good hands. He creates separation. He wins jump balls every time. Okay. And he kind of lost some value because he lost out on the last half of his senior season at Texas with a groin injury, and then he didn't participate in the combine. So I think teams felt like they were flying blind. Went in the 5th round to Jacksonville. But he's a guy, like when he's on the field, he is going to be targeted. He's going to get catches. He's a big guy, creates space, and reliable. And especially for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, that's going to be a big deal. And I think people are discounting that with him.
Now, do you think that's still going to hold given all the moves we've seen to Jacksonville this past week, particularly in that wide receiver room? Like, I like Colin Johnson too. Marvin Jones is getting the ball ahead of him, just flat out, I think.
Well, we'll talk about that shortly.
All right. Well, actually, I had one more question. Yeah. What is Weenus Together? Enlighten me. Other than being a funny play on words. Jen, why don't you go ahead?
So Weenus Together was actually created by Cooter Doodle. And it
friend of the show.
Yes. It's a charity league, and Weenus is the skin on your elbow, for those of you who don't know. But it was a play on words for Weenus Together. We're in this together. And that's where the charity came from. Plus, we were in the middle of a pandemic. And when we did our Between the Holidays podcast with In Between, and we brought everybody together, we all created the Cole Komet Club. And yeah. So she came up with it. It's her baby. Let me look at the charities. I know it was, No Kid Hungry, Team Gleason, which is ALS, and the ADAA, which is Anxiety and Depression Association of America. But you have to do an application just like you do with Scott Fishbowl, and you can just go to the website Weenis, WEENIS together.com for more information. But yeah, that's not ours. I just put it in my bio because
Sure.
I love
Well, you
Cooter.
both, I think,
She's
had
nice.
it in your bio, if I recall. So I felt like it was something important to touch on. The Gleason thing obviously makes sense given that I believe she is a diehard Saints fan, and
She
think
is.
therefore must be in that area. So
Yes.
Gleason, an obvious connection there.
Mhm.
Okay, well, that's awesome. And Lateral Bot got right on it and put that URL right in the rolling bottom. So why don't we roll on then to some free agent free for all? What was, and we're going to go around the horn for these. So it's going to go Jen first and then Nate. Jen, what was your favorite free agent move so far as redraft implications go?
Probably Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, I love him.
It's a good
I love
one.
him in Washington. He's going to have some massive weapons now that he can utilize. He's got JD McKissick and Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, even Logan Thomas could be helpful for him. So, like, I like him there. And I like him in the locker room. I like his attitude. I like that he's always positive. I liked him in Miami this last season.
Any more teams? Did we miss anything?
He's played for all 32 teams, in case anybody's wondering. But yeah, I mean, he's just been all over the place. And, he's still got gas in the tank, man. He's still doing it. He can still get it done. So I love that for him.
No, I mean, I agree with you, though. I would say Ryan Fitzpatrick always carrying a couple weapons. Talking about the gun show here, that arm. All right, but seriously though, Nate, who do you have? Who's someone for redraft that you're going like, I liked what that move did, even if it's not someone like, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, you might not pick up Ryan Fitzpatrick, but now you're like really hyped on Terry McLaurin,
right?
Like, what's a move that's like jumping to the top of the radar?
So actually, funny you should say it. I like Terry McLaurin a little bit more now that Fitzmagic is there. He looked really good with Alex Smith, and I feel like Alex Smith and Fitzmagic are somewhat similar quarterbacks in like how they see the field and how they throw the ball and how they operate. Alex Smith got them to the playoffs. He made Terry McLaurin look really good. I think that Terry McLaurin, with all of the signings that Washington is doing and what they're doing with that organization, Terry McLaurin is going to explode. We're talking about a guy that could be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver next season in redraft. Easily. It wouldn't shock me at all. I think Washington's going to be really good.
Wouldn't shock me either. If you read my columns from the past year, stand hard for the Washington football team defense. Plugged them a lot.
Their defense is phenomenal.
Still got them in my dynasty league. Like, I'm holding on for dear life. But yeah, I think so. If you go to the accountability Bible that I have, like, I've got Terry McLaurin as a wide receiver 1 candidate. So that'd be like 12 and higher. And I don't think I'm taking that one back. Like, I think this is it.
I wouldn't take it back.
I think this is, that team's going to be good. I think they'll be a playoff team again. I really do.
I think they could be an
that
NFC
division.
Yeah, I think they could be an NFC championship team. Like, legitimately, I think they could be good enough next year.
They almost beat the Bucks. They weren't that far out of that game, and that was with Taylor Heineke.
Right.
If Fitzmagic can like look like Miami Fitzmagic, they've got a real shot. Okay. What about Dynasty? Jen, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Nate.
Well, we're talking so much about Washington, but Curtis Samuel. I mean, he's explosive. They weren't using him in Carolina, so I know Ron Rivera is going to use him. Like, Fitzmagic's going to use him.
Even though he wasn't using him in Carolina, no concerns about that.
I mean, different time.
Sure. Sure. I think that is fair, by the way. I don't think people should have concerns. I just thought it needed to get mentioned.
Yeah. No.
Okay, Nate, what about you?
So Dynasty, this is going to sound really weird. I like Gerald Everett in Seattle. I think he could go off, and I think he could go off for another like 3-4 years in Seattle. I think he fits that offensive scheme. And he can block. So they're going to have him on the field a lot. He'll be in on play action to make it look like they're running. He's a guy that runs tight routes. He just wasn't used as much in LA this past season.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a bigger deal than people are talking about.
Yeah, I think we've had some bigger names moving at tight end, which I think is part of it. But I would say, like, believing in the players' talent, I think there's a wide range on that, but the opportunity really, I don't think could be better. I think you've definitely hit on something there. Like, they want to use the tight end. Carroll's always wanted to use the tight end. We saw Disley be a tight end one candidate at times when he was healthy.
Yeah. Jimmy Graham looked good there.
Yeah. But let's bring the mood down. Least favorite moves. Let's get a little angry here. Jen, what was your least favorite move for redraft so far?
Probably Andy Dalton to the Bears. Like, I mean, he's not awesome to begin with. And Colin Cowherd uses the nickname the pale squirt gun for him, which I think is pretty accurate. I mean, he lowers the value for if you have any of those guys on your team. Like, he lowers the value for any and all of them. I mean, maybe David Montgomery is going to be okay, but otherwise, like,
I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Nate, what about you? Least favorite move for redraft?
Aaron Jones. That was a weird. I think his skill set doesn't fit what LaFleur wants to do there. He doesn't fit what Aaron Rodgers likes to do. They've got AJ Dillon, who will do exactly what they want him to do. And I just thought it was weird. And I think people are going to be high on him this year, and they shouldn't be. You shouldn't be high on Aaron Jones. I'd be higher on AJ Dillon because he's going to get the goal line work.
Interesting.
He's going to be scoring. He's a brute, and they used him at the goal line towards the end of the season, and we saw what he could do. He's a brute. They drafted him in the second round for a reason.
Well, we would hope, but they drafted Jordan Love in the first, so anything's possible.
That's fair. That's fair. I don't like it for AJ Dillon's value. I don't like it for Aaron Jones' value. I was hoping to see Aaron Jones go somewhere like Arizona, Buffalo.
I wanted Buffalo a lot.
Buffalo, he would have been a great fit in Buffalo. He would have been good. I mean, Miami wouldn't have been bad. I hear they're talking to Chris Carson now. I just don't love him back in Green Bay. I think it's a lose-lose for him, and AJ Dillon is going to steal all the goal line work. So there you go.
Interesting way to think about it. I would have expected that to be your least favorite move for Dynasty. So if that's not your least favorite move for Dynasty, what is?
So Andy Dalton came to mind for the values of Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, who's one of my favorites. You know what? I think I'm going to stick with that one.
Okay. Well,
I don't like it. I think that, Dalton's on is it a 1-year deal?
Something like that. It's not long-term. Like, I think could easily move on.
Right. But part of it for me is this is what this franchise is doing. They moved up to number 2 to get Mitchell Trubisky when they could have had him. I think they had the 10th pick. Nobody was taking him ahead of them in that draft. And I remember when it happened, and Jen and I had a conversation about it. Why did they trade up? There was no reason.
Yeah.
I think this Dalton signing just kind of speaks to, they brought in Kenny Golladay, but they won't sign Allen Robinson to a long-term deal, but they're talking to Kenny Golladay. Robinson.
I was going to say, if we're breaking some news here, I didn't realize Golladay had signed, but
he had.
I saw the talks. Yes.
Yeah, there was. That franchise is not heading in the right direction. And I think this Dalton signing really kind of like blasts that to people. I love Darnell Mooney, but like, I don't feel like he has, I'm selling Darnell Mooney now.
I could see that. I think my one thing would be like, I think Andy Dalton towards the end of his time at the Cowboys starting to get it together a bit, and we didn't see the fancy value of the Dallas wide receivers tank a ton. And I think there's similar talent in Chicago. I mean, people are saying this is the best quarterback that Allen Robinson has ever played with. And if you look back,
they're not
there's
wrong.
a chance that they're right. I also heard listening to someone's pod today, either I think Fantasy Pros or Fantasy Footballers, but like the chance that Pete Carroll really likes Andy Dalton. So maybe they're bringing him in because they will then trade him to Seattle in addition to the pick haul they were already offering.
Which was a haul.
It was a haul.
It was a haul. It was 3 first-round picks.
Yeah, but Seattle thinks they're in. I get why Seattle didn't do it. Seattle thinks they're in win now, which you could argue that they are. And so if you're in win now, you don't trade your franchise quarterback. That's like all there is to it. That's why the Rams traded Jared Goff, because he wasn't their franchise quarterback. That's why they got in Stafford.
And that's another horrible move.
That
trade. Because I don't like
the picks. Is that it?
I don't
not like Stafford.
No, I love Stafford.
Okay.
I love Stafford. I love Stafford in LA, but I hate Goff. Goff for Stafford? I
mean,
don't.
Here's no. Detroit doesn't think they're going to win. They don't care about Goff. I think.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I under no. Again, I've taken an L before. I'm not Adam Schefter. If I was Adam Schefter, I'd maybe know more, but I'm not Adam Schefter. But I do believe the Detroit Lions have no intention of Jared Goff being their long-term solution. And if he magically is, then whoopee for them. But I wouldn't even be shocked if they still draft a quarterback. Like, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like,
I can see that.
I think that the Detroit Lions did something that we don't see much in professional sports anymore. And that was they did a solid to a guy who was loyal to them. And they let Matthew Stafford pick his spot as long as it was like slightly beneficial to them. And like, you know, the picks that they get for that, like, are they the greatest? Nope, but they are picks, which are good if you're building. Because now you can spend that earlier pick on someone like a Zach Wilson or a Trey Lance, and then spend a later pick, you know, on a lineman that'll probably be pretty good because it's still in the first round.
Man, I really like Zach Wilson. Really like. I hope he doesn't go to Detroit because I feel like they'll ruin him.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's kind of a benefit of having Goff. Goff is competent enough that they don't have to rush in a new guy.
True.
They ultimately may still do that because that's kind of how the league works, but they won't have to. I think even with the Matt Ryan long-term future still being in Atlanta, I think that's another situation where theoretically you could still see them take a quarterback that they feel they will just have no pressure to start ahead of Matt Ryan. Right. Well, Jen, what about you? What's your least favorite move for Dynasty?
Probably Kenyon Drake to the Raiders. I mean,
that one hurts.
Yeah. I mean, his value is just going to go down because he's splitting his time with Josh Jacobs, you know? So I don't love it, I guess, you know, I mean, it sinks both of them. So it sucks. But Gruden, obviously,
it's such a Gruden move.
Yeah,
it's like such a Gruden move.
John Gruden, what am I going to do? I'm going to get rid of every offensive lineman I have. I'm going to overpay a not that great running back to hamper the value of the guy I reached for in the first round like 2 years ago. And on top of that, I'm going to overpay an aging wide receiver because he's fast. I meant it when I said that I am genuinely shocked that that's not where John Ross went.
Mm-hmm.
What about for redraft though? Least favorite move there. And then we'll kind of get back into the lighter side, the happier side of things. Talk about some sleepers, some value picks.
Yeah. Am I up on that?
You are up on, did you already do your least favorite move for redraft? Who was that? Remind me. Right. Okay. I thought that was your dynasty one.
It got
Okay.
confusing because then Nate chose Andy Dalton for
You're
his
right.
dynasty,
You're right.
and it was a whole
So
Yeah.
much Andy Dalton hate. It literally just seeped into my brain. Let's talk about some people that we love. So, Jen, what is a player that you think is going to become the biggest value now for redraft due to free agent moves that have happened? For example, something comes to mind like Gabe Davis now, someone whose talent I really believe in. He's, I think, going to slip a lot because people are going to get freaked out by Emmanuel Sanders coming in. I'm just not that worried.
Sure. And I kind of feel that way about Cam Newton. Like,
Okay.
he didn't have a great season last year, but he also had COVID.
Some would call it
He's not on
bad.
the team. Some would call it bad. But I think you're going to be able to get him on the cheap this year for sure.
I would agree with that.
And with the amount of money that Belichick is just throwing out there, and he's got more to go. Like, they have the second highest cap for the league right now. And, picking up Hunter Henry and Jonnu, like, I just feel like Cam is going to have more weapons, and he's not going to have COVID, and he's settling in with Belichick. And I feel like he's overlooked for sure by a lot of people. People see Cam Newton and they're like, maybe not. Maybe if he's still around, several rounds from now. But
you have no
otherwise-
concerns that's just the last days of the Roman Empire and Bill Belichick's just spending money and ready to watch it burn in 2 years?
I don't think so. Like,
Okay. You could very well be right. I felt it should be mentioned.
Yeah, I feel like he feels like he won the lottery with all of this. I think it was like $168 million or something crazy. Like,
It was a lot.
He's just shopping, man. He's just out there, on Rodeo Drive. Like, I'll take you, and I'll take you, and I'll take you. And they're decent. I mean, we'll see what happens with Aguilar. I'm not like super hyped on him, but he's got other weapons. So.
And they're continuing to build. Like, they're not done. They're not done. They're not done.
I actually earlier today I stated I believe that team is going to be a top 8 defense for redraft purposes. They're going to be treated like around a fringe DST 1, DST 2. I think that's someone you won't have to reach for in drafts. You could potentially get right out the gate, and that will be good. I think they will be back in the playoff hunt. I don't know if they'll make the playoffs because I still think Miami is going to be really good. I still think Buffalo is going to be really good. And I think that the Jets will be better, though they might not be good enough. I think the Jets will look more competitive, even if their record doesn't show it.
Agreed.
But Nate, what about you? Someone that you see some value in now because of moves that have been made.
So this is dependent on a deal that I'm sounding like is probably going to get done. Is Chris Carson to Miami, Myles Gaskin. Because I still think he's going to ball out, even if they bring in Chris Carson. He's talented. He's incredibly talented, and I was really high on him last half of last season. And I think that offense can maintain support 2 running backs of that caliber. And plus, we don't know that Chris Carson can stay healthy.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger one for me. I think whoever Miami brings in will likely be a bell cow. I think they want to use a bell cow. I think the fact that Salvin Ahmed was a bell cow kind of shows that. But Chris Carson does struggle to stay healthy. And I think James Conner, who's kind of the other person they're looking at, struggles to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Yep. And so in redraft, I definitely would agree you want to probably look at Gaskin. Yep. What about Dynasty, though?
So for me, for Dynasty, it probably AJ Dillon, because people are down on him for the Aaron Jones signing. And like I said earlier, he's going to steal all the goal line work.
Yeah, I think he's just too valuable to totally pass up on. And his cost has never been lower, other than at times last year. Like, I overpaid for him personally. I'm willing to admit that, but you know what? I'm holding on to him at this point.
But did you overpay for him? Like, in the grand scheme of things, you might not have overpaid for him.
No, I sent Chase Edmonds in an early second. If he's not going to be the starter, I think I slightly overpaid for him.
But if
I'm not like super salty about it, but objectively, I slightly overpaid for him.
But if he scores 12 touchdowns,
then awesome. And
Yeah.
I might slot him into my flex. Right now, honestly, I'm more freaked out about Josh Jacobs than I am about AJ Dillon, both of whom are on my roster. Luckily, though, I've also got Cam Akers, who I am super hyped on, especially now that Malcolm Brown is gone. Bye-bye.
Yes. Love Cam.
Oh, absolutely. Jem, what about you? A value that you're seeing in Dynasty?
So back to Marvin Jones. Like, I just feel like and I know I'm going to get some hate for it, but like,
Because he's old.
Yeah. I mean, they have Chenault, Chark, and Johnson. Like, what's with Marvin Jones? Like,
they're going to bring him in to use him. I think he'll be a bit of a safety blanket. And I think the fact that the cost won't be for that high for him, I agree. I think he's clearly going to be one of the top 3 wide receivers on a team that will want to use Trevor Lawrence's arm.
Yes, absolutely agreed. And I mean, they signed him for 2 years, $12 million. So, I mean,
it's a cheap contract.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, no, I definitely I like that one. I definitely like that one for redraft, but I agree in Dynasty, like it's not going to cost you much,
right?
Especially in startups, like that's a super late pick.
Well, and I think something people don't think about with Dynasty because age is such a big thing, but also like if you're in win now mode in Dynasty and you can get Marvin Jones on the cheap, why not?
Yeah.
No, like last year I picked up John Brown off of waivers and it was like, why not?
Might as well.
Like, you know what? Like this guy was a wide receiver 2 the year before. Like, why not? And if he sucks, I'll drop him.
Yep.
What move? So you kind of hinted at this, Nate. You're really keeping an eye on who's that Miami running back going to be. Jen, what's a move that you're keeping an eye on that's a bit under the radar right now?
Probably T.Y. Hilton. And again, because of age,
I like it.
He still has gas in the tank. And interested to see where he lands, I guess, is basically it. Like, yeah. I mean, I don't have that much more to say.
And so I think you're just worried that he will go to Arizona then, right? Because then it's like, how many aging wide receivers can Kyler Murray have to throw the ball to?
Poor Kyler.
Sky's the limit.
It's basically like everyone's going to be going like, look, if you can get it to DeAndre, go nuts. Like we're going to like give some cushion to these old guys.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then Nate, again, I touched on the Miami thing, but is there maybe a more under the radar move that you're like keeping a lookout for?
I'm curious what the Broncos are going to do at quarterback. I mean, I feel like I'm hoping that they'll maybe like try and work a trade for a guy like Minshew. Homer take. He wouldn't cost much at all. They could probably ship Drew Lock to be a backup to Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm not a GM.
You guys still need a backup? That would be like my only thing. Because right now, isn't it Brett Rippon?
Brett Rippon, dump truck Jeff Driscoll.
Yeah.
But I mean, they can. I'm not as worried about the backup side of things, and I don't want Drew Lock. I think Drew Lock deserves an opportunity to show someone what he can do somewhere. Just not Denver. So trade him to Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence struggles a little bit. He gets some playing time, or maybe they deal him. Maybe I don't know. But just give me some Minshew.
Yeah, I want that. I think Locke will be an interesting one, actually, because I get why people are out on Locke. I think there's a lot of reasons to be out on Locke. To me, he's just someone that merits keeping an eye on because there's a real chance that his progress was derailed by the COVID season. And I'm not saying waste capital on him. I'm just saying he needs to be in your watch list.
Well, and I think that he needs a different system because
could be true.
Because as long as it's Fangio and Shermer here, that you would have thought he would have flourished in the Shermer offense because Shermer likes mobile quarterbacks, but then he didn't use him in that. Like he didn't let him be a mobile quarterback, and Locke likes to roam. And he didn't let him be a mobile. It was very confusing.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, well, I think that's going to largely wrap up the fantasy football portion of the show, but I figured, we got a married couple here. We've had one before in the nascent days of the show. want to say Fringe Unicorn and
Andrew.
Love them.
Keep remembering things. Always a good thing. But I figured we'd take advantage, play the newlywed game. Why not?
Awesome.
So you guys were given questions. I have your answers, and I therefore can kind of stage everything in a way that maybe makes you look bad. A joke. The answers were all pretty good. You guys like really seem locked in.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried. We'll start with a softball. Jen, where is Nate's favorite place to travel in the U.S.?
Oh, in the U.S. I mean, it has to be Boston, right?
Nate, what did you say?
I said Boston.
We can't pay for sound effects yet, so it's just going to be a little ding ding ding.
Pew, pew, pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
All right, Nate, lobbing the same softball back to you, but with a slight twist. Where is Jen's favorite place to travel in the entire world?
Oh, that's easy. Puerto Vallarta, Mexico.
Show me Puerto Vallarta. That's just a coat yes, Puerto Vallarta, hands down, I believe, was the exact response. So 1-1, looking good. Let's see if we get things a little tripped up. I know we said we were done with the fantasy talk, but I lied. Nate, what is Jen's biggest fantasy accomplishment? Keep the answer on the shorter side if you want. I will give you credit if it's close enough.
Ooh. Yeah. She won that T-Mobile league.
Jen, was it winning the T-Mobile league?
No, it was taking second in our home league because we've never gotten any money back from that. Like we just pay out every year. We commish.
Totally.
Yeah. So the fact that I took second this year in such a bizarre year was like
totally.
Yes.
Oh, totally.
Nate, that one stings a little. It feels like it just makes me think of when Trevor Ariza for the Wizards puts it up, hits an air ball, but it hits the bottom of the net. So the announcer stood up. That's what I mean. Like you had a great answer there, but it was just not quite.
Yeah.
Yep.
But let's see if you, Jen, let's see if you can figure out what Nate's biggest fantasy accomplishment was.
I mean, that's hard because I haven't been with him for all of his fantasy years. I do know that he was really, really proud to take second in the league that we co-managed this year, the Dynasty League that we co-managed, because it was our first Dynasty. We didn't know anybody really in that league. But I mean, I don't...
That the final answer? That where we're landing?
Yeah. We'll
okay.
Go there.
Nate, is she going to look better than you with this answer?
Yeah, no, definitely. She is correct because it was an IDP startup.
Awesome.
And it was literally,
awesome.
I don't even know how we ended up in that league. Somebody on Twitter posted it. I have no idea who it was. I don't know who any of the people in the league are.
Who was the stud of that team? I'm curious.
Derrick Henry.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah.
What draft pick you get him at?
We got him second round.
Okay, not bad considering he basically returned in redraft terms first round value.
Yeah, and I think it was like 2-7.
Yeah, it was like I think we had. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Can't complain about that.
No.
But let's see if we can find some things to complain about here. Nate, what is Jen's biggest fantasy regret? Again, you can keep it short. If you're close enough, we'll give you the point.
Oh man, that's a really tough one. Biggest fantasy regret. I have no. You know what? I have no idea.
You want to take a Hail Mary?
I'll take a Hail Mary. Following me into 7 Dynasty leagues last season.
Well, you got kind of close there. It is Dynasty related, but Jen, what was the answer we were looking for here?
Oh, so we started out co-managing this team, and then somebody dropped out, and I picked up this orphan team. and they suck so bad. Like I don't even know where I've got to go to like begin rebuilding. It's going to take me several years to figure out how to make this team magical. So I don't think I'll ever pick up another orphan team ever again. It was awful.
Well, we're co-managing another orphan team.
Okay. So besides that.
So Jen, pretty good person. Not a fan of orphans, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Just clip that soundbite, everyone. Don't worry. All right. Well, Jen, you're currently in the lead here. Nate's taken a couple swings and misses, even if that is the wrong sport. But let's see if you can get this one. What is Nate's biggest fantasy regret? And again, short answers work as long as they're in the realm.
I mean,
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't care how unprofessional that was, but lateral bot, you got me. You got me there.
Oh,
sad. I don't know. That's a tough one because I don't know.
You think she deserves a hint, Nate? Are you going to be the loving husband that lets her get a little hint?
yeah, I will be. It was the 2019 Home League semifinals.
And it had something to do with my NFL team that I follow.
Dude, I don't know. Like, this is the thing about my brain is I don't remember. Like, I barely remember who played in the Super Bowl this year. Like, it's just a thing that I have. Like, I have to work so hard. So 2018, I don't know.
Well, this guy didn't play in the Super Bowl this year, but he did play in the Super Bowl last year, and he is Raheem Mostert, and Nate did not start him in his home league semifinals. And
he had like 45 points, and I lost by like 3 to my brother-in-law Matt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and yeah, that
absolutely brutal.
And I would have won the championship. I outscored the other team in the championship.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if this gets any less brutal. Jen, what is Nate's favorite player?
Oh, well, right now, I would go Lavishka. Like, he loves Lavishka.
Nate, what does the survey say?
The survey says Philip Lindsay.
What are you talking about?
I love Lavishka Chenault, but Philip Lindsay is like my all-time favorite hometown. We just talked about this like 2 hours ago.
Hence my comment about it being brutal, because he's no longer on the team.
It is brutal. Okay.
It is brutal. I love Lavishka. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big time Lavishka truther, but Philip Lindsay, like in my heart and soul, is my guy.
Fun fact: Herms and I actually saw Philip Lindsay's like first or second NFL game ever. Was a preseason game against Washington, and we were at the game, and there was this backup running back, and he just looked good. And I go to Charlie, I'm like, that guy looks like something. Who is that? And that was Philip Lindsay. Mm-hmm. And I've had him on many fantasy teams since.
Mm-hmm. You know, he's a hometown boy.
Yes, that's why I'm shocked that they let him go for
me too.
Boone.
He just moved out of his parents' basement like a year ago or less. No, he's just like less than a year ago.
Like
that's almost as sad as Jen hating orphans.
No, I think it's kind of neat. Like,
no, that is his story is incredible. I cannot wait to see where he goes. I think he will bring value to a team pretty quickly, to be honest.
What's so disappointing is his agent was tweeting out, was that this morning?
That was this morning.
That everything had been worked out, that Lindsay was staying with Denver. And I'm like screaming down the stairs today. I'm like, Philip Lindsay's staying. And we're like, yes, this is the best news we've had. And then a matter of hours later.
Like an hour later.
Tweet out, like, dang it.
Yep.
Absolutely brutal. Well, Nate, let's see if you can get this one. We've actually talked about this player. You know, Jen got a hint one time, so I think you get a hint one time. Who is Jen's favorite player?
I'll take the hint, please.
I just gave it to you. We've already talked about this player.
Oh, okay. So that's your hint.
After that, I don't think you deserve a second.
No, I don't think I do. I don't know why my brain's just like,
You're right there. I can feel it.
I know I'm right there. I
Who
like my
have we talked about tonight who I love?
Andy Dalton. No,
Oh,
no.
okay.
Duh. Oh my God, Fitzmagic. She is
Yeah.
in love with Fitzmagic.
I was about to say this guy's played for so many teams. He almost could have played for your Boston Red Sox at this point. It is
Man,
Ryan Fitzmagic.
We will take the pitching help.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's a
Yep.
former Boston boy. I don't know if you know this,
Mhm.
but he went to Harvard.
Oh, I know he went to Harvard. That's part of why I love him, because
I genuinely, his appearance in the league is one of my all-time favorite things in that show. It's just like absolutely fantastic. Fun fact, I know Jen swears that he's played for all 32 teams. I've heard that he actually hasn't played in the NFC North, if I recall. It's the only division he hasn't played in, and he's never played for or against the Packers.
he's never. Wow.
From what I've heard,
I
I picked up
mean-
that little bit of trivia today. I could be totally wrong, but I trust the source.
That's
Interesting.
Even though I'm not Adam Schefter, I do trust this source.
I mean, you look like him though.
I know we're like dead ringers for each other, right? All right. Well, this is our last one. I think Jen currently has the lead and comfortably.
Oh, she's winning.
But let's see what we've got here. Jen, what was Nate's favorite surprise? Because you talked about those fun surprises in your column. Figure one last little tie-in to end things here. What is Nate's favorite surprise that you have given him?
I mean, this sounds kind of lame, especially coming out of the week that we've had with the blizzard. But maybe it was my favorite surprise to give him because we weren't exchanging Christmas presents that year, but was our snowblower. And I think
Okay, snowblower.
Yeah,
Great
that is
surprise to be
Yeah,
sure.
that's a good answer.
But Nate,
No,
was
that
it the
was.
correct answer?
It was not. It was my birthday trip to Boston when we had been dating for like 4 months.
I should have taken a hint.
Also a great answer. I have to say, while I can't give you the point, Jen,
Yeah.
you did have a good attempt at it.
Yeah.
Like
The
it's
snowblower was cool.
it was like
So cool.
2nd and 15 and you just got stopped 1 yard short. Maybe you'll drive it in at 3rd down, but unfortunately the whistle blew.
Yeah.
So we'll never get to know.
I think it was the
Why you were
partner
running
for
it's
the
beyond
week
me,
that-
actually. Okay, Nate, you might even be able to tie Jen with this one. I'm not sure. I stopped keeping score.
Dun, dun,
But
dun.
what is Jen's favorite surprise that you have given her?
Oh, that's tough. I'm staring into your soul right now on screen.
Dare.
So I want to say maybe it was the first birthday trip to Estes Park that I did that I surprised you. If not our engagement, because that was a surprise. Well, actually, it wasn't that much of a
No, it
surprise.
wasn't.
No, you knew. I'm going to go with that first trip we took to Estes Park because we had so much fun on that trip.
We did have fun on that trip. That was
Yeah,
nice.
that's not the right answer, though, is it?
It's not.
But I
Okay.
think you've had more fun since your son Jackson was born,
Yeah.
which
That's
Jen
my-
very sweetly said was her favorite surprise, and you are a monster for not knowing.
It wasn't. I mean, actually, you know what? That's fair. It was a surprise.
He was a huge surprise.
He was an enormous surprise. We had literally given up.
And we changed our
Wow.
whole life plan. And then all of a sudden here I was
Here
pregnant.
comes-
So
Yep.
That was the biggest surprise. And
Yeah, that
Lateral,
was.
Lateral bot. I got to disagree. You should not try this game with friends is okay, but I would not try it with significant others. That is a test you are not ready to have in a lot of instances. But luckily, you guys were ready to have it. You have been phenomenal guests. You are an incredible couple. It has been a blast having you here. I think we've got nothing left to do, but Jen, why don't you plug some stuff that you've got coming up? Then we'll go to Nate, wrap it all up in a nice bow.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Like, this was a lot of fun. It was great to be able to talk about life and football, which is exactly what we do. So thank you for having me on. You can find me at Jen Paulvote on Twitter. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram, and Jackson has done one TikTok on my TikTok account.
Ooh.
I haven't done any, but I am there. I would say a TikTok stalker. I like to just get on and TikTok the night away. But that's where you can find me. And then, of course, In Between Media, at IBT_media and inbetweenmedia.com.
Okay, Nate, why don't you go ahead and plug some stuff for us?
So you can find me on Twitter at JanateJackFF. That's Janate. It's our team name together.
Yeah.
It's not Janate Jack.
Yeah.
Just
I did not eat him.
She did not eat him. It's a team name we've been rolling with for 14 years. So obviously at In Between Media at IBT_media, in-betweenmedia.com. That's about it now. I did my last hashtag Blitz game show today, so I'm no longer doing that. I'm strictly right now with In Between Media. And you'll find me on Twitter
all day.
All day.
Yeah. Awesome. Again, thank you guys so much for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
It's been a blast. If you want to see more from The Lateral, we're now on YouTube. You probably have been watching this from YouTube. All 74 and a half of you don't know where that half came from. It's going to be a fun one looking back through the data. But you can find our content at thelateralff.com. We've got Zach dropping articles. We got Charlie dropping articles. I'm updating my accountability Bible with all the hot, fresh, source, breaking news stuff that I, not Adam Schefter, am reporting. Herms, fine. Stop correcting me. You are not sentient, Lateral bot. You do what we program you to do. And if you are sentient, I take all of that back. Like, please, just let me be. I, for one, am happy to welcome our robot overlords. And then I think I'm going to finally put out this weekend the first part of my Perfect Draft series. I had a really busy week at work, including some corona vaccine stuff that people who follow me on Twitter, I'm sure, have seen the saga that was. But it's coming to an end on Saturday, hopefully.
Awesome.
But while we wait for that, I'm going to try and see if I can't figure out how to reverse engineer the Perfect Draft. It's a project I am looking forward to. And then we'll be back here next Thursday. At least I will be. The Lateral bot will be. I don't know if anyone else will be, though.
Oh, fun fact. It's your boy. It's your boy sitting in the... I'm playing PlayStation. It's Madden time. I just wanted to pop on to let everybody know that our buddy Jesse from the Bacon Games sports thing or whatever, also a contributor with The Lateral for video content. And the first time that he and I will be appearing on screen together will be Saturday. I believe we agreed on 2 p.m. So that's going to be really fun. We're going to be like recapping some free agency stuff. And, I'm just really excited to have Jesse on board, man. Like, honestly, like, he's such a cool dude. Like, wanted to put that out there.
Totally agree. And so is that going to be live or is that going to be pre-taped? So find it at the YouTube and the Twitter or...
Oh, it's going to be live, baby. We're doing that shit live. So Saturday, I believe, 2 p.m. So yeah, it's gonna be really cool, man. Like, I'm super stoked about this. We're gonna start, shooting for doing these things on Saturdays, I believe, at least going forward, and then we'll see where the show takes us. Because who knows? We're secretive. Look at us. We have plans. But dude, don't want to miss out on the Lateral stuff. I'll tell you what.
I think there's even a podcast in the works. So
really,
like,
really, we're gonna have a podcast.
I think we're gonna have a podcast.
Dude!
We're still working out some details. We just got YouTube up and running, so bear with us here.
Damn.
But part of the reason we've been bringing on some people is to be able to put out more content, both written, AV, and so part of AV is audio. And I think bringing a podcast is definitely something we want to do. Not least of all, so people stop calling this a podcast, because I love it when people look for the podcast and it's not there because it's not a podcast. Again, I have zero complaints about anyone loving the show. It's just really more of a marketing thing where it's not a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, if you just broaden the terms of what podcast means, then sure, I guess. But
totally. I think if we do get a podcast fully up and running, figure out that animal, we are eventually going to try to put an audio only feed of our show, at least my show, out there, because that is something I would like to do.
We got that shit covered. So
awesome.
we'll file that one under coming soon. But in terms of immediate things, Yeah.
'Cause
Saturday.
I love
It's
bringing
gonna be
on
lit.
guests like you guys because I think you guys have a lot to bring to people. That is part of why I do the show. The point of the show isn't to talk about what I
Yeah,
think
man.
about things. It's to talk about what other people have to add to the greater conversation that you're not going to be the best at necessarily. And so, like, you guys bringing in the lifestyle aspect, taking a bigger picture look at things. You know, we've had some people that are like big film people, big rookie scouters. You know, I think that's really the goal here. And so I want people to be able to catch that because not everyone can, you know, be up at 11:15 p.m. for a live stream.
Totally.
But
Yeah.
I think it is about time to sign off. We have reached about the hour and a half ish mark
geez.
of our weekly hourish. Went a little longer, but I think totally worth it. And so I think nothing left to do but mouth sounds.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Mouse sounds. Why not?
Okay.
It's the Lateral Show on YouTube now. It's the Lateral Show on YouTube and Twitter and nowhere else. Coming to an audio format. Platform coming soon. It's the Lateral. It's the Lateral.
do this
It's
forever.
the Lateral coming to you. Bow. The Lateral.